Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Tasties and tastettes, welcome back to another episode of FTW GT Weekly. It's your boy Lenny. I am joined today by my guy, Danity Kane. He's a showstopper who will, in fact, ride for you.
No. My name's Dante, guys. What's up?
And today, it is fucking hot in her. So, Dante, keep your clothes the fuck on, please, for all of our sakes. We are coming straight from Mount Vesuvius itself. From Everest, the coldest place on Earth, maybe, I don't know, probably not, to now the hottest place on Earth, the midst of a volcano. And what we're going to do this week is start you off with some educational facts, if you don't mind. Why don't we drop some knowledge on them, right, Danity? So for starters, Dante, did you know that the danger area around a volcano is approximately about a 20-mile radius?
No,
you didn't know that, huh?
You clearly have more time to read up on this than I did.
Did you know that more than 80% of the Earth's surface is volcanic in origin? The seafloor and some mountains were formed by countless volcanic eruptions. Gaseous emissions.
In school at some point.
No, I don't think you did, probably. Did you know that there are, in fact, more than 500 active volcanoes in the world? More than half of these taking place around the Pacific Ocean at a place called the Ring of Fire.
That one I knew.
You knew that?
Yeah.
Is it because you just read it recently?
Yeah.
Little contradictory, but I think I understand it. So the Ring of Fire, it contains actually like 750 to 915 volcanoes, about 2/3 of the total in the world. But only I think about 500, or like, I think it's like 350 of them are active. Kind of crazy,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what the VEI is?
It's like the same way we use the Richter scale to measure earthquakes. That's how we measure the explosion of a volcano.
And this scale goes from like a scale of 1 to 7. There's only a few 7s that have happened in recent history, and by recent I mean like still like 1,000 years ago or some shit.
Actually, our most recent one was in 1815.
Yes, exactly. And I was gonna. Do you know which one that is?
That is Mount Tambora, Indonesia.
Mount Tambora, yes. Indonesia might be the worst place on Earth to live. No offense to the people of Indonesia. I know you're huge fans.
They got mad volcanoes. I thought Hawaii was the hotspot for volcanoes.
Yeah, no, this place is fucking dangerous. Gucci armed and dangerous.
I knew you were going to say that.
So Mount Tambora, it caused the year without summer. Kind of a cool little tagline. The global temperature that year dropped by almost a full degree, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the reality is a full degree for the whole world affected by one volcano. Isn't that crazy?
That's kind of wild when you put it in that scope. Yes.
So they estimate about 100,000 to 200,000 people died as an effect of this volcano. 10 to 11,000 were directly from the volcano itself. And then in the year following, because of crop destruction and things like that, and the lack of infrastructure that I assume you have in 1815, they weren't able to really recover. A lot of people died from famine in that year. The other biggest one was quite a bit further back, I believe, but it's called Mount Somalis. Did you read about this one at all?
No.
So this caused what was considered to be the Little Ice Age. And kind of along the same line, the reason that is because when the ash from the eruption, it fell as far as 210 miles away from the volcano, Dante. Crazy. Yeah. The thing I didn't realize, and the reason they call it the Little Ice Age, much like Tambora, the global temperature, because of the cloud of ash that was over the volcano, again, it dropped so significantly that it lowered the world's temperature, causing a century-long drop in temperature that lasted it was sometime in the last 1,000 years this happened.
Bro, basically. Did you just discover the fix for global warming?
This is what I was gonna say, dude. Deadass. That's what the thought I had from reading this was like, if you wanted to cure global warming, I think you would just set off a chain reaction of all of the volcanoes.
maybe not all of them, but like, just get a couple of the good ones to pop off.
Well, I mean, they're all in like one spot, so why not just set them all off?
Just light the ring of fire.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny Cash that bitch. And so last thing I want to do before we move on to the actual podcast, but I hope you've enjoyed this little Nat Geo section that we've thrown in at the beginning of this. Dante, could you rank these Volcano movies for me?
Uh-oh.
We have Volcano, starring Tommy Lee Jones. We have Dante's Peak, which starred Pierce Brosnan.
Yep.
Pompeii, featuring Kit Harington, Jon Snow, Game of Thrones. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Is that really a volcano movie?
Well, some of these may be a bit of a stretch. And the last one is The Croods. No, but please rank these for me.
In common theme in this pod, the only one of those I've seen is Dante's Peak.
I figured that was going to be your number one for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here,
for some of you that don't know, my name is actually Dante.
No, it isn't. But somewhere in here, like a hairline joke really plays, but I wouldn't do that to you.
Wow.
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak. I got you. Yeah, no, I see where you're going with that.
Yep.
It's fucked up, though.
Okay, but rank them. Yo, Bailey, chill, brother.
Let's put Dante's Peak at number 1.
Okay.
That's the only one I've seen.
I kind of wanted to rank these 5-1.
Oh.
Can we build up to number 1? So act like you didn't hear that, everybody.
My bad. Delete. 3, 2, 1, Let's put Croods at number 5. I don't actually even know what that is. I think it's a cartoon, right?
Yeah, it is. It's an animated movie.
And then now I'm trying to remember what you said. Oh, okay.
You want me to repeat them?
No. I got it. Then we're gonna do Pompeii at number 4.
Okay. You haven't seen that?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right.
Just nothing about what you told me about it stood out, so that's where it's going.
Pompeii number 4. That movie's basically just like a love story with a volcano in the background.
We're gonna go Jurassic World at number 3.
The Fallen Kingdom.
Yes.
All right, just make sure we got that out there.
Yeah, it's just a cool movie franchise. I mean, and they got volcanoes. Sick.
Yeah. You got that.
Number 2, Volcano. Shout out to Tommy Lee Jones.
You like him?
Yeah.
Specifically what?
You put me on the spot here.
Is it because he's Agent K?
I don't know if that's my favorite role from him.
I'm confused what other movies you know from him.
Oh, God.
Man of the House? Is that what you're thinking about?
Is that the one where he's like a babysitter or something?
Well, I think he works at like he's at like a college creeping on like girls or something. Or his daughter goes to college. I don't know.
Yeah, Agent K.
Yeah, okay. I was like, I know Tommy Lee Jones movies, but I'm very
I feel
confident
like I've seen
you
him with
don't.
something else that I really liked him, and now I'm looking at this list.
I know
have no idea.
You've never seen any of those movies.
No, none of them. And number 1, shout out to my boy Pierce Brosnan. Dante's Peak.
Yes. That movie is incredible. Both Volcano and Dante's Peak came out around the same time. I think it's like 96, 97 is when the two of them came out.
I paused there because I almost forgot the name of the movie.
Volcano's the second row down on what you're looking at. Can we just click that to catch the date? See if
why did I click it? 97.
Okay, so I was right. And I think Dante's Peak was 96. So they came out, like, they were probably made at the same time. I enjoy both of them. Crazy thing in the movie Volcano. Oh, both 97.
Yeah,
huh?
both 97.
Wow. Crazy thing about the movie Volcano, they use fire trucks to put out lava, I'm pretty sure. I didn't look up lava facts. I probably should have checked some of that. I mostly got a lot of ash info and volcanoes themselves.
Something tells me like you can't just use a fire truck to put out a volcano.
Yeah, but like think about it. They used the water. So like they set up barriers with like Jersey barriers and like bags of sand, I think, or something. And then they use fire trucks to shoot the water from the fire trucks at the lava to cool it down.
Yeah, sure.
No, it works.
Yeah.
I think that plays.
Yeah, no, they got it.
Yeah. And then Dante's Peak famously has that old bitch who just melts.
That old bitch. Yup.
She does melt, though.
I'm not even gonna look up her name.
All right. So that was a fun little start to the show.
Started with a history lesson.
So from one Ring of Fire to another, I wanted to spend some time talking about professional wrestling. It's been a tough weekend for your boy. I don't know if you know that, Dante.
I mean, no, I had no idea.
So I never did like a preview to WrestleMania, but if I was going to retroactively preview it for you, my feelings going into the weekend, this was the best built WrestleMania probably since like I was a kid. It was the first time I feel like going into the weekend that I had total faith that they were going to get it right. And night one was incredible. Start to finish incredible. There was a bunch of really good matches. And then you got a happy finish at the end. Night two rolls around, and all you got to do is culminate one thing. Like, they had built this main event feud between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, who is a wrestler, not The Rock or Jason Momoa. All they had to do was just reach the finish line, cross the finish line, just end the angle, finish the story, as Cody Rhodes would say. But news that day comes out that the WWE, in fact, is going to be being sold to WME, who is the company that recently, in 2016, bought the UFC.
Oh.
For like $4 billion. They're now valued at like 9 or 10. Maybe even 11 or 12. I don't know. But a lot of money, either way. So it's only like, ever since they bought the UFC, they have just grown exponentially. Pandemic was really positive for the UFC, and since then, they just haven't fallen off. They buy the WWE, and now cumulatively between the two companies, they're valued at like $22 million, $21 or $22 million. Huge deal. But in this deal, a problem happens. And it's that it changed the power structure again in the WWE. And what it did, Dante, was bring Vince McMahon back into the fold. Vince McMahon this past like summer, maybe a little before that, had been ostracized by his own like shitty acts of paying off women that he tried to like hit on, and you know, all this like skeezy rich person thing,
Just
like
trying
stuff.
to, like, bury all his his dirt.
Skeletons, you know, like he a lot of that stuff came to the forefront, and they were able to get him out of the program. And the reason I think the last like 7, 8, 9 months have been so strong is that like he had lost complete touch. Because he's just fucking, it's like the fact that we put like 80-year-olds in office, right? It's the same thing. It's this guy who's in his 70s who has no idea what his actual audience wants, and but he's got all the power in the world. So Triple H has been booking for a while, and it's been really, really good. Everything's been cohesive, and like these storylines are having time to like breathe and resonate, and like people who are like, they're better, their business has been booming. It's more popular than it's been in years. And in one night, when they have the opportunity to coronate their next champion, they have Roman Reigns, who's been on like an 800-day reign, 2.5 years. He's been at the top of the card, making them a ton of money, no disrespect to him. And at the end of the day, the decision that they made, I understand in that standpoint that like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and he's making a bunch of money. But like, there's a natural progression to things, and you have a chance to make another star, and they should have done it. And Cody Rhodes didn't win that night. And collectively, wrestling fans were left with like this, like, I'll just speak for me. I haven't felt that way about wrestling in a very long time. Like, where I was like, for a couple hours after, genuinely like sad. I felt like a fucking hole in me, dude. Like, it's weird. But that's like what this I've had an attachment to wrestling since I was a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid. It's something that I've just always loved. It's not something I watch every week. I haven't probably watched every week for 10 years now, but it's something I follow every week. It's something I stay very up on because I enjoy it, and I watch every pay-per-view. I show up for all of them, and it's been really fun. But like I said, it fell off. And what you find out is that through the selling of the company, basically Vince McMahon is back to, he's a higher ranking official in the UFC than Dana White is, because of the way the power dynamic works. So basically, Ari Emanuel is the head of WME. WME now has like 2 people directly underneath him, and one of those 2 people being Vince McMahon. Then there's a trickle down to the next layer, which would include the Dana Whites, this guy Nick Khan, who is like the face of like WWE corporate, especially for the past year with Vince McMahon not really being available. But because of this power structure, now Vince McMahon is back into a spot where he gets to dictate everything. And last night on Raw, so every year after WrestleMania, the Monday night after WrestleMania is considered to be like the craziest Raw of the year. Huge returns are supposed to happen. Huge debuts are supposed to happen. All this stuff. It's supposed to be like this like chaotic hour. It's like a lot of fun and everybody looks forward to it. The crowd's super engaged. And last night was just Vince McMahon's return to booking. And it was a bummer because it was disjointed. It was hard to follow. And I watched this at a bar. So like I probably don't even have the true idea of how bad it was. But the word coming out of Raw from last night is that they were rewriting stuff in the process of the show happening. And that was something that hadn't happened in the months since Vince McMahon had been gone. And I mean, like Seth Rollins was in the ring and they came up and like told him his whole program that he was about to start. His whole promo he was going to do was changing on the fly. Like while he was in the ring and they were on break. So morale's down now. There's some word about Bayley leaving. And it's like everything just shifted for the bad overnight. They went from like the happiest program in the world, right? All this like great stuff happening to all of a sudden it's tanked. It's gone. It's dead. And it's sad, man. I don't know. I think it's like I should be coming off this weekend and wanting to like, you don't know this necessarily because you don't follow sports or anything, but like when your team wins a championship or loses a championship, it dictates how you know what next week goes. Because when your team wins, you're on YouTube looking up first take clips. You're on like the radio listening to like them rant and rave about how awesome this team was and how good everything went. But quite the opposite when your team loses, you stay away from it. Like for weeks, it's like you broke up from your girlfriend. It's like your or boyfriend,
or whatever they identify as.
Sure, exactly. But you just abstain from all of it, right? Like I would go from listening to the Sports Hub, for like every week leading up to the Super Bowl, and if the Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl, I would give it up for like a month. Like I just wouldn't go back, right? You'd see like clips pop up in your YouTube algorithm because you're watching it every day and you're like, I can't watch this anymore. Get it away from me. And that's how I feel with wrestling right now because like I just think I'm going back to a place that I know I wasn't happy with as a fan. And I feel like the only way you can really impose any kind of change and let them know that it's not okay is by not watching it. So Brock Lesnar it's not coming back, but like he turned heel last night on Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, who should have won on Sunday night, the championship, and should have had this coronation as the new guy. And he should have shown up on Monday night and had this awesome, heroic babyface promo. Instead, has this cool opportunity. I think everybody was kind of optimistic for a second because he was about to tag team with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar hasn't had an actual tag match since like 2006. Like this is a very rare thing. They had a kind of a cool moment to do something like that. And instead, before the match even starts, where they've had very little wrestling on a 3-hour show, you get to the main event and he just turns on him before the match even starts. Mind you, there's a stipulation in place that says he can't wrestle for a championship if he sides with Cody Rhodes. He would never be able to challenge as long as Roman Reigns is champion. So logically, it doesn't even make sense, right? Because why wouldn't he just team with him, help him win the championship, and then you turn on him because you could challenge for the title, right? Now you turn on him, you beat him up, you could never challenge again. And I just wonder how we're going to explain that in a logical way that makes sense. On top of all of this, if you go look at 2012, John Cena, there's a shot at the end of WrestleMania this year of Cody Rhodes sitting in the ring, and it's like the bokeh effect, Dante. You know what this is, right?
No.
You don't know what the bokeh... You're a fucking photographer, no?
Oh, okay. I was thinking like boca, like Spanish for mouth.
What that mouth do, though? Or like Raton, like Florida.
Sure, yeah.
Is Boca Raton the mouth of Florida? The mouth of Raton?
Boca is mouth and Raton is rat. So I guess it'd be like the mouth of the rat.
Rat mouth.
Or rat mouth, yeah.
I don't know. That's weird. That's going to be next week's
Florida, so
next week's history lesson will be on Boca Raton. Sick. Nice. That might be easier for you to put behind me.
Yeah. I just need palm trees.
Oh, we already used those, so I think we can bring them back, right? Yeah, so I kind of lost my train. Oh, here's the thing, bokeh effect. So for those who don't know, actually, Dante, could you explain it?
So bokeh effect is basically when there's a part of your picture that's out of focus, it mimics like the shape of the camera lens.
So basically, like, there's a shot of Cody Rhodes in the ring after he's like coming to and realizing that he lost. And in the background, you see Roman Reigns with his family holding the titles up behind him. It's a really cool shot. It shows how sad he is, and like I said this word last week, I'll say it again, juxtaposition of the happy champion in the background, you know?
So are you even trying to say bokeh effect, or are you just saying like he was out of focus and then they panned to focus him?
They never panned to focus him.
Oh, so you just see him in the background out of focus.
Yeah, so the subject is in complete focus in the front of frame. And in the back, you just see a blurry champion holding their belt behind him.
Okay.
Bokeh effect. Am I wrong?
That's more a reference to like depth of field, but yeah.
It is depth of field though, is what I'm talking.
We're not going into a whole photography lesson now. We already educated about.
All right, that's 2 weeks from now, dude. We're gonna have photographers behind me. So there's a photo from 2012 of John Cena after he lost to The Rock. After he said like, "This is the biggest moment of my career." He talks all this shit, and he shows up and loses at WrestleMania in the main event, and he has to go on this thing over the next year to get it back. And the next night on Raw, after that, Brock Lesnar made his return. And Brock Lesnar left Cena laying in the main event. Busted up, laying on the ground, laid out. The same exact thing they did this year with Cody Rhodes. So it's not even fucking original. The whole thing was like, Triple H said something on Sunday night, like, the story's never over. Like, everybody acts like this is the final chapter. This is just another chapter in the story. You're just telling the same fucking story. Like, that's not... I was willing to... I think when I heard that on Sunday night, I was able to take a breath, you know, and be like, all right, this sucks, and they got this wrong, but I've had... The past 9 months have been really solid long-term booking. With Triple H in charge, there's a chance that this still goes right? Maybe they do get it to a place that's bigger. Vince McMahon's at the head of this ship now. He's back in charge. It ain't happening. Like, it's dead. It's fucking dead. And it's sad, man. It's just sad. It's my childhood, you know, it's something I'm very, very fond of. And it's falling apart. Sad start. These things are usually fun. But for me, this wasn't a fun weekend, which it was for like, dude, this was like the best WrestleMania ever, Dante. Top 5, top 3 ever.
So would you say it's like the storytelling that made it the best, or?
It's everything. Like, so you have to... You won't understand this, but if anybody who watches wrestling out there would understand this. So a couple weeks ago on AEW, like the WWE's biggest competitor in North America, at least, they had this match with Kenny Omega, who's like their biggest star, and this guy who's from the Indies, Vikingo. And it was just a bunch of moves. Like, this guy can do a bunch of crazy flips and stuff. So it's all really cool. Wow. And it got a 5-star rating. And my comment, I said this on Twitter, like, it's like, all these cool moves are great, right? But wrestling's not really about the moves. It's about the story. The reason that we've been wrestling fans our whole life is because when we were kids, some of us started on Brett and Shawn and their hatred for each other and how it spilled over into the real life. Or we saw Stone Cold Steve Austin fighting the man, his boss, Vince McMahon, right? And we were attached to the story. The matches could suck, but the story was so great. And I don't know if we're going to hear Bailey's snoring, like intense snoring right now. I apologize. A lot of times it doesn't get picked up, but this one's loud. But it was the story, right? And throughout the rest of my life, I could probably point to a bunch of other ones. CM Punk was a big one. But the story is what keeps you invested as fans, right? You can have great matches all day long. But if you don't care about the people involved or the story involved, there's only so much enjoyment that you can get. When you truly are invested in the storyline, it takes your level of enjoyment to a whole other level. To a whole other peak, Dante.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So this year they just had all these stories that were climaxing at the right time, honestly. And because of that, meets the match quality was all really good, right? So you had like the culmination of, or the coronation of possibly a new star in Austin Theory. Like that's kind of a variable thing, but he defeated John Cena. You had this tag match that had no build to it, but was just a great 8 to 10 minute match. Like that has its part on the card, right? Because not everything you can have this like heavy emotional thing, or you'll just be drained by the end of the night. So you have this like kind of change of pace. You get Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins, who's kind of like your Hollywood star meets wrestler, and it's another great match from Logan Paul, who's just a natural at this. And he's a great
Logan
heel.
Paul was in WrestleMania?
He's done it 2 years in a row.
Oh, shit.
He's got like 5 matches under his belt, and every single one's amazing.
Huh.
And this one was no different. And it's because Seth Rollins is Seth Rollins, but Logan Paul is like a legitimate. If he wrestled like a normal schedule, like if he wasn't Logan Paul, he'd still be a great wrestler. It just helps that he's Logan Paul, so people give him like didn't expect it from him. But you get to this like tag title match, and tag team titles haven't closed WrestleMania since WrestleMania 1. Or a tag match hasn't closed WrestleMania since WrestleMania 1. So either way, you have these storylines that have all built up to this point. And like because of that, there was so and all the matches paid off on top of this great story. It culminated in this like amazing WrestleMania. Like there's the density of great matches that came from this weekend from WrestleMania. It hasn't really ever been done in my lifetime. There's been great matches on WrestleManias. There's been 1 or 2 on every card, but there's never been like almost every single thing hit and they just fucking got to the finish line. And it's like you tripped. You're in the 40-yard dash and you tripped at the 30 after you had a huge ass lead. You just gave it all up. They blew it in the 9th.
Damn.
Yeah. So let me know how you feel out there. If you're a wrestling fan like me, I'd be interested to know if you're all in the dumps and feel the same way. I'm pretty sure most of us do. What do you think that this is going to lead to? Is it going to lead to more of a crossover between the WWE and UFC? That is an interesting proposition. There's some talk of charging for pay-per-views. WWE has been involved with Peacock and had their pay-per-views free for years now between the WWE network and that. And now they're might follow the UFC like plan of you have to pay for a membership and then you still have to pay on top of that for your events. And I at that point will only be illegally watching them. I promise you that.
He didn't actually say that. We'll bleep that out. Allegedly. Yeah. In Mexico.
VPN. NordVPN. Use code TASTE.
We're getting there.
But on to happier news. We both saw our movie last week. We went and saw D&D. So let's start here. Box office performance. Do you have it available?
Yep.
Let us know how it did.
They did a whopping 37 million opening weekend.
Did they finish in number 1?
Yeah.
How close was John Wick?
Actually, not that far behind at 28 mil.
I believe I predicted on Nerdy Coffee, shout out Nerd Affiliate, go follow their channel. I pointed out in the chat last week that I thought that they would almost be even. I figured they'd both be right around $30 million. So I would just like to pat myself on the back. I was very close. Almost exact on John Wick. That's a fall off from, what did we say, 75 mil last week to, so you're looking at like a 55% drop off between weeks, yeah. Which is about what I expected. I mean, like it's really hard to maintain movies that I think like, it's really just those huge Marvel movies that maintain a ton of their audience week over week. And by huge, I mean like Endgame, obviously, Infinity War, obviously, and I think like Black Panther did just as good like week 2 as it did week 1, honestly, and that's why it was so big.
Talking about like the most recent one or the first one?
No, the first one.
The first
one. Like that one resonated so much with people that they
went and saw. Because I think I remember them even like extending like the time they had it in theaters because it was still doing so.
They've brought it back at different times, I believe, too. Honestly,
yeah.
Because it resonated so much with its fan base that it just, it of course, like it just kept people saw it 2, 3, 4 times because of how iconic it was. But yeah, and and John Wick's a great movie, but like that's not a movie that I think I actually thought about going and seeing it again, but like it's so daunting to put in like 3.5 hours in a fucking movie theater on the second watch of something that I'd probably just rather wait for it to be on streaming, right? But the movie at hand, D&D. Do you think that's a good performance for it based on like the movie that we saw?
Yeah.
And what we've looked at for the past month, right? From like we've seen a lot of movies this month, right? Like,
yeah,
it's about where I would expect it to perform.
That honestly is a really good performance for, that type of movie.
Can you get me the budget though?
Tell me here. No, give me a sec.
Well, didn't Shazam do 30?
They did actually.
Interesting. And like Creed 3 did like about the same, I think 38, 39.
No, weren't they in like the 50s?
Were they? Fuck.
For opening?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I think they were like 50, 60 or something like that.
So budget was 150.
Yeah.
So call it. I mean, they got a long way to go. So 38 million was domestic. Do you have worldwide?
Global
box office.
Global was 70.
Yeah. I mean, that's gonna be tough to make its money back.
Yeah, because basically, if they didn't do it in opening weekend, they're kind of probably dead in the water.
Well, okay. Here's what I was going to ask him when we got closer to Mario, and we can just bring up what you've already mentioned, right? Because they're going to be direct competitors in the box office. So, What are they predicting for Mario?
So we'll cite our sources from ScreenRant.com. They're predicting at least 85 to 90 million opening weekend.
So my question to you when you brought this up, and I didn't ask you, but I said I wanted to save it. When is April vacation for kids?
Oh, shit. Next week.
So this is what I have to assume why they're banking on it doing that much money. And I just think it's interesting to say. So if you look up early Rotten Tomatoes scores on Mario, I believe it just came out today, and it's like 42% or 43%. Very low.
48%.
48%. Dungeons and Dragons Rotten Tomato score, I think, is 83, 84, something like that. Top one.
Yeah. 91?
91.
What?
Yeah. So
I don't understand Rotten Tomatoes. What the fuck?
Well, look at the audience score, though.
94.
So here's what I've learned over the past week, and we haven't even gotten into our review yet. 3, 2, 1, spoiler, just to be safe. Time codes are on the bottom if you don't want to hear an actual review on the movie. We'll probably get into it a little here. I don't think that me and you line up with what most people's feelings are on this movie, is what I've learned over the past week.
Really? Okay. I haven't read or heard or discussed anything about the movie with anybody really aside from you.
I just think that I think what it is what, so I always come in with very tempered expectations on movies, right? I think the difference is a lot of people came into this movie with very low expectations. And it's exceeded it so greatly that they give it a very high score, right? Because if everything's scored on a scale, this seems like a great fucking movie. But I bring the Rotten Tomato and the audience score up to say this. They're assuming that Mario is going to do that well because it's going to hit the kid demographic. But I would argue, if I had kids and I looked at those two movies up against each other, would I not, as a parent, sway towards, I might relate more, I don't know, actually, to like the live action kid movie that has really, really strong reviews?
You got to think about it, though. Like, as a parent, like, they may still be more inclined to Mario because, like, that's nostalgic for us as adults, too.
Yeah, I agree. But if it's getting trashed by reviews, and you think from the very first day that this movie was announced, people criticized it because of the Chris Pratt thing. So is that a lingering thought in their mind? Like, dude, Chris Pratt's not fucking Mario, even though it's an animated character and he doesn't have to look like him. You know what I mean? Like, if that was the immediate reaction people has, is that going to translate to box office success when you have an option out there that everybody's telling you is great, both critically and audience? It does still relate to, like, that movie's good for all ages, right? Dungeons and Dragons is certainly fine for all ages.
It's definitely a family movie, yeah.
Whereas your other options right now that are still in the movies is John Wick, Scream, Creed, none of which are going to work for kids, right? 65 still in the movie theater, people, which is just fucking nuts. Like, it's crazy. Because nobody saw it. Like, it's made no money. It's still in the movie
theater.
They
did 1.5 mil this past weekend.
Oh, sick. Sick, dude. That's a fifth of what they did opening weekend. So nobody's seen it. But yeah, I just think that's an interesting thought. So as far as Dungeons and Dragons, I kind of alluded to it. I don't dislike the movie. I got the vibe you didn't like it at all.
I wouldn't say I didn't like it at all. I think I got like a whole vibe from the trailer that it was gonna be funnier than it was.
And this is where I'm a bit confused, because I 100% agree with you on that. That like there was, I don't even remember the joke, but I do remember there being only one part of the movie that I actually like chuckled. Like there was things that I thought were amusing, but it didn't get an actual like audible.
Like at best, they got like a half smirk out of me out of these.
Yeah, so I
jokes,
actually like
you know?
it, and I guess that's where there were certain things. That's how I felt most of the movie. I just remember there was one scene where I like actually laughed, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I thought all of the performances are good. I thought the action was better than I ever thought it would be, being completely honest.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it did exceed my expectations, but I mostly came away from that movie feeling this was very mediocre.
Yeah.
The way I came away from that movie feeling is that at the end of this year, at the end of 2023, if you told me this movie came out, I would have to pause and think for a second, because I would be like, wait, did that come out this year? Because it's not a bad movie, but it's like it's coming out, first of all, in a month that had a lot of movies come out. And I actually have my rankings for the month so far. I actually have my 2023 movie rankings, Dante. Would you like to hear them?
Yeah, run that down for me.
So I have at number 1, John Wick.
Okay.
As
you're doing that pronunciation again, huh?
No, I didn't hit the.
You didn't throw the A at the end, yeah.
So
no,
well, it could have been worse though, because I could have said it like it was a basket, wicker basket. Yikes.
Moving on.
So next up is Scream. For me, Scream 6. Coming in at number 3 year to date, Creed 3.
Damn, I thought that would have ranked higher.
I don't like that movie that much. Everybody else does.
I still need to see.
Yeah, I mean, you would have put it at 1. Shazam.
At this point, I think I like the idea of it better, but
I think these 3 movies are almost identical, if I'm being honest. And I have them all scored that way on my Letterboxd. You can find this ranking on our Letterboxd at FTWGT. So I have Shazam, Dungeons and Dragons, and Ant-Man all at 2.5 stars. I think I do rank them about that in my enjoyment. Shazam.
I think I'd rank Shazam above Dungeons and Dragons.
So that's where I have it. I have them, but I don't think so. The problem I ran into, I initially had Shazam Fury of the Gods at 3 stars, but then I try to always go back at the other stuff I scored.
And see I started, how you feel it compares.
Yeah, and I started looking at the other stuff that I had at 3 stars, and I couldn't justify that being in the list of those movies. Because I don't give anything 5 stars, right? So that automatically knocks you down a peg.
Yeah.
So really quickly, it goes Shazam, Dungeons and Dragons, Ant-Man, and then only 1 star given to 65.
You gave them a star.
I gave them a full star. So I'm still too nice. And what I'll find is like I said, by the end of the year, I will probably drop that down, I'm really quickly, I just want to list off a couple of the movies that I've given 3 stars to. While I look that up, would you like to tell the people what you have given, like if you agree with my rankings for what you've seen?
For what I've seen, I'm pretty much with you. I mean, the only one I'm really hung up on is you holding Shazam and Dungeons and Dragons in the same respect.
But I think like most people would probably, you don't think they're very similar in terms of quality?
Maybe, but I definitely think like Shazam did a better job of getting like a chuckle out of me, getting me more invested in the movie, whereas Dungeons and Dragons, I was just like, oh, I guess this is fine, and like I'll watch it till the end, but I don't really know why I'm watching. Okay.
So a couple 3-star movies that I have here that I've rated in the past. Free Guy, I have as a 3-star movie. 1917, 3-star movie. I don't even like this that much, but I at least respect it. The Joker, 3-star movie. Spider-Man Far From Home, 3-star movie. I think all of these would be considered better than Shazam or D&D, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I find it fall on like 2.5 for right now, feeling pretty appropriate. Other 2.5 star movies I have, Captain Marvel, I have at 2.5 star. Ready Player One, I might need to adjust, but I do have that at 2.5 stars. It Chapter 2, 2.5 stars. Black Widow, 2.5 stars. Venom, the second one, 2.5 stars. Yeah, so like I think it's pretty comparable to a lot of those movies. No.
I mean, once you lay it out, yeah, it sounds fair.
So all of the performances in this movie are all solid. I think they're all good, whether it's Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, Justice Will Winslow. Is that his name? Justice
Jesse Smith.
You saying Jussie?
Jesse.
Okay, so we're not talking Smollett.
No.
Okay. So yeah. Do you have anything to add on D&D? Did you?
No.
Was it really the humor that killed it for you?
Yeah, honestly, man. Like,
is it when you go to IMDb, do they list this as a comedy first or an action movie first?
It's actually a fantasy movie first. Oh, well, actually, hold on. No, I'm on Rotten Tomatoes. Give me a second.
It still remains the fact of, if it's not considered a comedy movie first, like, would this? I mean, this qualifies as a pretty good fantasy movie, no?
I guess. What other fantasy movies are there that I'm comparing this to?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know what I'm comparing it to for fantasy movies either. You know what I did tell somebody, and neither one of us probably really saw this movie, but like, you remember they came out with the World of Warcraft movie?
I'm assuming this is the same reaction I'm going to have to this movie in a year. I don't remember that coming out.
Yeah, I mean, that, like, so the World of Warcraft movie is legitimately bad. Like, very bad. And I think by comparison, this is like great. I also would say, like, the original Dungeons and Dragons movie for me was the one from the year 2000. It had Marlon Wayans in it.
Gotcha.
Like, that movie's super campy, and like, it's good because of how bad it is. This is just an okay movie. And I think maybe that's why I think it's not memorable, because it's not great, but it's not bad. Like, it's a perfectly fine movie. But in terms of what the movie theater needs now, right? Like, and I guess it drew an audience, so I'm probably wrong on this, but just my opinion. Mediocre movies aren't going to keep the movie theater open. You know? John Wick is going to keep the movie theaters going.
Yeah.
To an extent, Creed seems like it's going to keep the movie theater business going. Scream's even shown its own little niche for how big it performed as opposed to what it was expected to perform at. This is performing pretty well, as it seems too. I don't know what the initial box office expectations were, because I think that's what hurt Shazam so bad. Like, Shazam had a very similar weekend, I think, but it was expected to do almost double what it did, you know? So if you fail to meet expectations that greatly, it's probably pretty difficult to...
So this actually beat Shazam's opening weekend, and I don't think it should have.
Well, you can't, like, that's a hard way to put it, though, don't you think? Because, like, who are we to say what people should go? Like, I guess we try to say it anyways, like, tell you whether or not you should watch stuff, but, like...
Kind of part of what we do here, man.
Yes and no, because to me, like, I make recommendations, right?
Yeah.
But, like, for those with good taste, to me, is more like, taste is subjective. Like, your taste may not be my taste, and I'm not trying to tell anybody that their taste is necessarily poor unless you liked the movie 65. Otherwise, like, that's where I think it's hard to say, like, well, I don't think it should have performed better than Shazam. Well, it did, so it probably should have, you know?
Yeah, I guess I'm being harsh. Yeah.
What did Shazam do?
For their opening weekend, they did 30 million versus Dungeons and Dragons 37.
So, but is there anywhere that says what D&D was expected to do going into this weekend? Because I think that's what I'm saying. It's like, I remember the week out from Shazam, they were expecting like 70 to 75 million. And when you come in at 30, you're not going to pick up next week, right? Because now it's got negative connotation attached to it.
So, I mean, they hit their mark. They were expected to do between 30 and 40 opening weekend.
So that's where I think that this is going to be looked at more positively, because people didn't expect this huge hit. So it just met expectations, you know, whereas like Shazam failed to meet expectations. And I kind of get it, because it's a superhero movie. It's a sequel to a movie that performed pretty well, I remember, with Shazam 1. But yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse on this, and we spend a lot of time on box office every week, but yeah, I just don't know if this is the type of movie that would get me back. I mean, I'm going to see a sequel because I go to everything, but
yeah,
it's not going to leave a lasting impression. It's not a movie I'll buy. It's not a movie I'll probably ever rewatch unless the sequel's coming out and I want to brush up on it. I do think there's a certain group of people out there that I think would really enjoy it. Like if you are super into fantasy movies, like I think this is a pretty good romp. You know? But yeah, with that being said, let's carry on. We got a couple more topics left here. So I wanted to talk about the Harry Potter reboot that's in the works, and you hadn't heard about this, right?
No, I had no idea.
How big of a Harry Potter fan are you again?
Pretty much not. I mean, like, I don't want to say I'm not like a fan of it, because like I do like it. I haven't really deep dove into it. Like I've only seen the first 2 movies. I played some of the game, and that's about it.
I think we do need to have you see the other movies.
All right, more homework.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't do any of the homework.
I mean,
you can't be like, oh, more homework when you don't do the homework.
It's just now it's more I got to get in trouble for not doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm just taking you to school and you don't do the work. And like I'm asking you to watch fucking movies. You act like I'm asking you to write essays, dude. I'm just saying you should watch a couple fucking movies so we can talk about them, dude.
Fair.
So Harry Potter, for people my age, is like the books that got us to read books, you know? Like, I showed up to midnight releases for Harry Potter books.
Damn.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I didn't even know they did that for books.
Yes, these things were so fucking big by like the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th books coming out that Barnes and Nobles could open at midnight and you'd have a crowd outside waiting to get the books.
That's wild.
I showed up to all the midnight releases for the movies at that point in my life. You know, I'm a teenager meeting up with my friends at midnight for fucking Harry Potter. Nothing was cooler than midnight releases for movies like 15 years ago. To the point where I would almost say bring that back. And I don't want them to because I feel bad for the workers. Like as a person who works in a similar field, I would feel bad. Like I hate when they made me show up for midnight for shit, right?
I'm cool with that not being a thing. Leave me with my 7 p.m. releases.
Yeah, I feel you. But it was like a cool experience, right? The excitement level was a lot different for a midnight release than it is for the 7 p.m.s.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just think we're getting at that age where I don't need to be out that late.
But like the murmur of the crowd, like the fan engagement at a midnight release was just a different kind of energy. Video games are the same thing, right?
Well, yeah, it's usually a lot more hype. Like sometimes people get so eccentric they dress up and like.
It's also the diehards, yeah, exactly. So
it is a more fun environment. I'll give you that.
I bring that up to say that the books meeting the movies, there's criticism between the fact that they're not as much there's not as much context in the movies because it's hard to do that with 2 hours or a little more than that to explain stories, right? That are books that are fairly dense. So there's some criticism, but the one thing that there's no criticism of is how perfect they cast those movies. Like Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. The same Harry Potter that you saw on the cover of the first book is the same person that they cast, basically. And it was like a happy accident to a point. The fear I have is that the plan is now to reboot this from scratch.
Oh, so they got to recast.
They're going to recast, and what they're going to do is do seasons, and each book is going to be a season.
So is this an attempt to tell the story better?
Better is tough, because I say that and saying again, like, they did a very good job. Like, those movies aren't looked at poorly. You reboot things when they're either really old or when they were really bad, right?
And this is neither.
Exactly. Like the last movie came out when I was graduating high school, like 2007-ish was when the last Harry Potter movie came out. That's not that long ago. The visuals hold up pretty well in that movie to what stuff is now. So you're not making some huge jump in my mind in terms of quality of visual either, right? And you're not going to cast it any better than you cast it before. And if anything, you're setting that show up kind of behind the 8 ball in a way, because you're going to have people like me, who is your actual, probably your main like fan base, right? My age, are going to be comparing this Harry Potter to that Harry Potter, that Ron Weasley to this Ron Weasley, Hermione, Dumbledore, go down the list, right? Snape, whatever it is, all of these roles. Like, you're going to have to now compare all of that, because it's so fresh in our minds. Because every year since those movies came out on ABC Family, they would do like the December run where they would show all of the Harry Potter movies. Like, people still watch those movies regularly, so it's still fresh in our minds. So you're gonna have to, yeah. What people are, or what I would say at least, is the optimism I would have is something like Order of the Phoenix, the 5th book. The movie misses a lot because it doesn't have the time to play out the full context of the story, right? So there's going to be times where I think you're going to get these things that you didn't see in the movies that you're going to be like, oh shit, like they're really doing this, like that's cool, right? But at the same time, it's still going to be like, is it as good as the original? And that's a hard thing to ask somebody. These movies that made as much money as they did and were as popular as they were, it's going to be a lot to ask of like a franchise. And I guess the fact that they're doing it as a TV show is going to lower expectations or give different expectations that you wouldn't get from a movie.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Why?
I think if we were talking about like TV shows like 10 years ago, yeah, maybe. But I feel like TV shows, they give just as much effort to now that they do to movies, if not more.
Well, but so the one benefit I think is like you're going to have HBO Max probably being the one who puts this out. So yeah, you're going to get time. Like, I think it's not going to be bad. I don't mean to say it's going to be bad, but I just don't know if it's necessary. I certainly wasn't. What I've been clamoring for the whole time is they came out with The Cursed Child within the past 10 years, which was another book within the storyline of actual original Harry Potter that stars an older Harry, an older Hermione, and an older Ron, right? It's a follow-up to those original stories. That should be what we're working on. And what I assume has happened, honestly, is they couldn't pay the actors enough to get them to come back. So, because don't you think if they wanted to really draw a rating, if they really wanted to draw subscribers, doing a movie like that and then rebooting would make more sense?
Yeah.
So to me, this feels like we couldn't pay enough for the originals. So let's just move on. Let's get 7 seasons out of this. And 7 seasons is a lot of fucking time, by the way.
That's also a big commitment for something you haven't even started yet, because like you don't know what the viewership's gonna look like.
It's gonna do well. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind. Like, I do wonder how much new audience you're gonna bring in. But as long as they stay true to what like the original fan base likes, like we're all still of the age that a couple different things, right? We all still love it. But we also are all of the age that we can afford to pay for, like, we're paying for our own streaming services now anyways, right? So, like, that fan base is going to go out and, if they don't already have HBO Max because of The Last of Us or Game of Thrones or whatever it might be, they're going to go out and pay for it to watch this, right?
Yeah.
You don't think so?
I mean, I don't think you're going to get a ton of new subscriptions. I think sharing subscriptions is still a big thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's just how many of these subscriptions do we really got to stack up and pay for? You know what I mean?
But people are already paying for HBO Max is my point. Either way, like, if you're already pretty fucking successful because of the Last of Us and all these things that you're putting out,
then it's just keeping people on the service. That's
exactly,
different, yeah.
You know, and then you're possibly drawing in new fans. Like, I just want the thing I do wonder, like I was gonna say, is like, how many younger people care about Harry Potter? I mean, I say that, but like, it is something that can work across multiple age groups. And on top of that, like, your parents have probably been showing you those movies because they love them so much, right?
And on top of that, I think like the game they just came out with kind of helps reinvigorate that younger audience too.
Yeah, but the game has
I know it has
to do with
nothing
it.
to do with the actual storyline, but it's still the lore and it's still like,
yeah. But the flip side to that is like, did the Fantastic Beasts trilogy hurt or help? Because the fandom waned pretty quickly throughout that franchise, and a franchise that truthfully I enjoy quite a bit. I thought especially the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them had this like fun, different feel to it than the other Harry Potters, but also had like the same feel all at the same time, right? But I think the fact that it like didn't have any big actors to it, and it was a little hard to follow, and then you run into the issues with Johnny Depp being removed, and it just kind of fell apart towards the end.
yeah.
Did that hurt it more than it helped? I do agree that like that video game has been very, very positively received, but like I don't know how much that translates when it's not actually about Harry Potter, you know?
I can see what you're saying.
Okay. Last thing before we get out of here. Did you see that Shrek 5 is a thing?
No.
Yeah.
Does it have a trailer out already?
No.
Okay.
So it's in early discussions, but Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz have all been approached to return.
Word. Okay.
So you're getting the whole original cast. I will ask the same question to you though. That movie, can you look up really quickly, and I mean really quickly, when Shrek 3 came out? Or no, Shrek 4 would be the last one, I'm sorry, right? There's been a million shorts since then, I get it. 2010.
Yeah.
Shrek the 4th. 13 years later, we're talking about doing this. And you can do anything you want, again, because of streaming. Like, I don't know if this will go to the movie theaters. But do you think this holds the same appeal? Like, is that audience carryover from what Shrek was 13 years ago going to carry over now?
Hell yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Even though, like, the third isn't great, and I don't think the fourth had a ton of people who saw it. Look up Shrek the 4th global box. I don't want to know about Fiona's box, to be clear.
Is that... Seriously?
That the global?
Yeah. Goddamn. 756 mil.
Yeah, I guess it did well. It's on Netflix. In case people want to watch it. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think those movies are great, right? I think, especially the first and the second one, I don't know if I've seen Shrek the 4th, and I know the third one wasn't great.
So I definitely haven't seen the 4th, but I just remember how much I love the first two, and I'd love to give them a chance to give me that again.
Do you think that they could actually recapture that?
I mean, you have the same cast, so you have the ability to, in a sense, but I don't know.
I'd like to know who's going to write it. It would be interesting.
Do we get Smash Mouth to give us a new song for that?
I'll tell you one thing that Smash Mouth got right, Dante. It's that you're not the smartest tool in the shed.
Wow. That's where we're going with this?
Well, you look kind of dumb with a finger and the thumb of the shape of an L on your forehead.
Oh, man.
So, with that being said, do you have anything that you're going to be watching in the upcoming week, or anything you could recommend to the people out there?
Hey, man, I'm going to be some of those $75 or $85 million they're expecting to get with Mario this weekend.
Okay. Are you also going to see Air, the story of Michael Jordan signing to Nike?
I didn't know that maybe. I don't know. That's probably more homework I might not do, but...
That's a Ben Affleck joint.
Okay.
Matt Damon is in it. Matt Damon is in it.
Why'd you say it like that? What's your beef with Matt Damon, bro?
Nah, he's cool. I do like his beef with Jimmy Kimmel. That's kind of funny.
Ah, didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, they have this whole like ongoing bit that they do with each other.
As you can tell, I don't keep up with current events much.
Yeah, you don't do any homework.
None.
So you're going to be in for Mario. We're seeing that Wednesday, by the way. I haven't told you that. That's tomorrow. It drops tomorrow.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
I'm pretty sure I looked and there wasn't...
Yeah.
All right.
You're looking kind of dumb.
We're not doing this again.
It's definitely out tomorrow, and there's showings as early as 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right, let's try it out.
Let's get that done, right? Like, let's just get it over with. So I got that. I did fuck up something last week, Dante, and I need to make amends on it.
What did you fuck
I was so caught up in like Wrestlemania weekend and everything that I said that the UFC event with Izzy fighting Pereira was going to be last weekend. I was just flat out fucking wrong. Right. So any of my predictions that I put in carry over to this week because it is actually this Saturday.
Well, now who's not the sharpest tool in the shed?
Sure, you got me there. So I will be watching that. I also just signed back up for Xbox Game Pass, and I'm playing MLB The Show 23.
I was going to ask, what's the game that brought you back in? That's
the
one?
I'm going to probably sign up for a month, play MLB The Show for a little bit. It's been fun. I've played like 3 or 4 games, progressively getting a little better. I'm trying to rebuild the Red Sox because they're just a garbage franchise right now. Fuck you, John Henry.
So you're the savior of the Sox. I got you.
I like to think I could be, yeah.
Love it.
And so, yeah, that is what I've got. That is what I've got for this weekend. Let us know what you're going to be seeing. Are you checking out Mario? You have kids, maybe? Or you're just an adult like we are and want to be surrounded by children?
I used to be self-conscious about going to watch these kids' movies. Now I'm just like, whatever.
No, I mean, dude, first of all, Chris Pratt's an adult.
I used to like just borrow a kid, whether it was one of my little cousins or something, be like, yo, you want to go see a movie?
All right, Epstein.
No, not like that, bro. Come on.
All right, bro, chill. Yeah, so let us know what you're going to be seeing. Have you gone out and seen D&D yet? Do you agree with Dante's take that it's the worst movie he's ever seen?
Wow. I didn't say that. I mean, the worst movie this year.
That's not 65.
I didn't see that one. I wasn't that dumb.
Just in solidarity, say it's the worst movie that came out. Are you excited for the Harry Potter reboot, Shrek 5? Did we miss anything as far as movies that got announced? And otherwise, yeah, guys, drop a like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at For Those With Good Taste, on Twitter at Good Taste Live. Like I said, Letterboxd, we are FTWGT on there. We're also on Twitch, YouTube Live, maybe someday. Dante, where can they find you?
Find me at Dirty Water ENT on Twitch and DirtyWater_ENT on Instagram and YouTube.
We are everywhere that podcasts are available, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I've never heard of somebody actually listening to us on there, but I'd just like to mention it just in case there are people who
I didn't know you could do podcasts on Pandora.
Yeah,
cool.
In case there's people who are still on there, I think we're on there. I've just signed up for every directory possible, such as
D's Nuts.
Thank you. And until next time, guys, we love you. Peace.
For those with good taste.